Welcome to Jean's journey. Her sensual and erotic encounters are all set to throb your heart and race it faster. Today's story is The Dinner Date. Screen lights will be dimmed, so you don't get disturbed as you listen and drift off to sleep. In the heart of Brasov, the ancient streets whispered tales of old, but none were as enchanting as the tale of Jean, a 26-years-old girl. A delicate beauty, with eyes as soft as the morning mist and a heart as gentle as the Transylvanian hills. Jean lived with her uncle Boris in a quaint house adorned with memories of yesteryears. Her parents had tragically passed in a car crash when she was young, and Uncle Boris, with his stoic demeanor and endless love, had raised her with all the tenderness he could muster. Tonight, the city buzzed with excitement. Jean had been invited to a gala at the mansion of one of the city's elite. She donned a little black dress that hugged her curves just right, and her slicked back, wet look added an edge to her natural allure. Uncle Boris, ever the protector, watched her leave with a mixture of pride and worry. "Be careful, my dear," he murmured grumpily, his eyes betraying his concern. "Ha, don't worry, Uncle Boris. I'll be back before the clock strikes midnight," Jean replied with a playful wink, trying to ease his worries. The mansion was a vision of opulence, with chandeliers that sparkled like the stars and music that floated through the air like a gentle breeze. As Jean walked in, heads turned, but one gaze in particular made her heart skip a beat. Across the room, an Italian gentleman, tall and striking with an air of mystery, locked eyes with her. His name, she later found out, was Luca. Luca watched Jean with an intensity that made her cheeks flush. She could feel his gaze follow her every move, igniting a fire within her that she had never felt before. She tried to focus on the conversations around her, but her eyes kept drifting back to him. After a few drinks, Jean's confidence grew. She approached Luca, her heart pounding in her chest. "Enjoying the party?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Luca smiled, a slow, captivating smile that made her knees weak. "I am now," he replied, his accent adding a musical lilt to his words. "And you, Bella? Are you having a good time?" Jean laughed softly. "It's certainly more interesting now." They talked, their conversation a dance of playful banter and soft flirtation. Jean learned that Luca was in Brasov for business, but had fallen in love with the city's charm. He spoke of Italy, painting pictures of sun-soaked vineyards and bustling markets, and Jean felt herself being drawn deeper into his world. As the night wore on, the attraction between them grew palpable. Every brush of his hand against hers, every shared glance, set her heart racing. The drinks blurred the edges of reality, making everything feel dreamlike and intense. Jean found herself in a quiet corner, her thoughts consumed by Luca. She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see him standing there, his eyes dark with desire. "Would you like to get some fresh air?" he asked, his voice husky. She nodded, and they made their way to the garden. The moonlight bathed the world in a silvery glow, and the cool night air did little to cool the fire between them. They walked in silence, the tension building with each step. Unable to resist any longer, Jean stopped and turned to Luca, her eyes searching his. "Why me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Luca stepped closer, his hand gently caressing her cheek. "Because, Jean, There's something about you that captivates me. Your beauty, your spirit. I am drawn to you in a way I cannot explain. Their lips met in a kiss that was both tender and passionate, a culmination of the night's electric connection. Jean felt herself melting into Luca's embrace, her deepest desires igniting like a flame. Suddenly, Jean broke the kiss, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Follow me," she whispered, turning towards the house. She made her way to the washroom, her heart racing with anticipation. She hoped, no, she knew Luca would follow. And he did. His presence, a magnetic pull she couldn't resist. Inside the washroom, the world outside ceased to exist. They came together in a heated rush, their kisses deep and urgent. Jean felt herself being lifted, her back pressed against the cool tiles as Luca's hands roamed her body. It was a moment of raw, unbridled passion, the culmination of their night-long flirtation. The heat between them was electric, their desire an unstoppable force. Well, hello, my audience. Sorry for the interruption. If you would like to listen to what happened inside the steamy washroom, along with expressions and illustrations, please follow my Patreon link in the description. And if you only want to listen to the explicit audio version, head over to my Spotify link. You'll find the missing part of the story in there. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more stories like this. Yeah, all right. Coming back to the story again. When they finally emerged, the party was still in full swing, but a few envious eyes followed them. Jean could feel the jealousy emanating from the other women, but she didn't care. All that mattered was the connection she felt with Luca. Luca insisted on driving Jean home. As they stepped outside, the heavens opened, and rain poured down in sheets. Laughing, they ran to his car, getting drenched in the process. By the time they reached Jean's house, they were both soaked to the skin. Luca turned off the engine and looked at Jean, his eyes filled with a mix of desire and tenderness. "I don't want this night to end," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the rain. Jean smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her despite the cold rain. "Then don't let it," she replied, her eyes locking with his. They stepped out of the car and stood in the rain, the droplets mingling with their breaths. Luca pulled Jean into his arms, and they kissed again, their bodies pressed close. The rain was their only witness, drenching them in a shared moment of passion and connection. Finally, reluctantly, Jean pulled away. "I have to go," she whispered, her voice tinged with regret. Luca nodded, understanding in his eyes. "But this is not the end, Jean. We will see each other again." With one last lingering kiss, Jean turned and walked to her door. As she entered her house, she looked back to see Luca watching her, a promise in his gaze. She knew that this night was only the beginning of their story, a tale that would continue under the moonlit skies of Brasov. Inside, she found Uncle Boris waiting, his concern replaced with a knowing smile. "Had a good time?" he asked, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. Jean blushed, nodding. "Yes, Uncle Boris, a night I'll never forget." And as she drifted off to sleep, the rain still pattering against the windows, Jean dreamed of Luca, the suave Italian who had captured her heart in the magical city of Brasov.